So last night I was lying in bed, ironically, and you'll hear why it's ironic just now. And I only thought of this now, but I was thinking before sleeping. Try chase my thoughts so that I don't lie there awake in the middle of the night or at like 3 a.m., which, happens quite regularly. But anyway, I was thinking about hunger and rest. Well, I was thinking about hunger, and then that led me to rest. And obviously, if you have been listening or not, or if you know my thoughts, it's when I say hunger, I'm talking about spiritual hunger and spiritual rest. And so I was thinking about this, and again, let me say these are completely just my thoughts. So please, if anyone did listen, don't go make a theology out of this or make this your go-to with everything. Chat with people and go to the Lord. I always feel if you're with people and you're spending time with the Lord, it's hard to go wrong. But these are just my thoughts, and I like to think about them. And even if it just opens a conversation, and even if I find out I'm wrong, then great. This isn't about right and wrong necessarily for me. Again, it's just about opening up questions that we have and thoughts, and actually thinking about what we do. Anyway, so I was thinking about hunger. Because in my circles, the spiritual hunger is like it's the thing. You've got to be hungry for the Lord, and the more hungry you are, the better you seem, or the more on fire, or the more spiritual, can I say, you are. And I don't even know how we define who's hungry. I guess it's always the guy who's always wanting to spend every moment in prayer, or always want to talk about the Lord, or always want to do that shows signs of hunger, and it'll be like, oh, that guy's so hungry, he's so hungry, and it's almost idolizes them in a way, and it kind of makes you feel like you're lacking hunger, and so you need to do something to work up some hunger, or you need to be better. Again, going into all the performance-y stuff, but anyway, and it's just a term that like I grew up with, we throw around, and I've never questioned, and I just kind of knew we got to do it, and I was trying to do it, and like, but what does that actually even mean? What is hunger for the Lord? And like, should we be hungry for Him? And it just got me thinking along the lines of like natural, like physical hunger. And I know sometimes you can't compare this, because I also already know people are like, oh, but spiritual hunger is different, because the more you eat, the more you get hungry. It's not the same. But just go with me for a moment. So when are you actually hungry? It's when you haven't eaten, or when you don't have food, and then you're hungry and you eat, and then you're satisfied, you're full. And that's kind of the train of thought I was going along, and seeing like, okay, well, does that then apply to the Lord? Like, are we saying we're hungry because we don't actually realize that we have it all, and we're still going to the table trying to get, and then it runs out, and we're trying to get, and it runs out, and trying to get, and it runs out, instead of this position in our hearts and our minds, renewing our minds to be like, hey, we have it all. And again, sometimes a lot of this stuff, it's the same concepts, it's just sometimes different language, I think. So I get what they mean by being hungry, but I think sometimes language can be quite dangerous, because you're showing people and telling them a certain thing. But I think sometimes what we mean by being spiritual hunger is it just there needs to, and this, in that sense, there needs to be some sort of passion for the Lord. There needs to be a desire, if you love someone, you want to talk about them, or you want to be with them, or I think that's what kind of spiritual hunger they're meaning by that. But it gets put into a whole nother thing and becomes a whole sect, and it's like, how do we get more hungry? How do we get more hungry? Those who are hungry in the room receive more. And I'm not trying to move from that to living in a space where like Christ is in all, with all, and I'm always satisfied. Yet there's just so much more to discover. And maybe it's just a language thing, but it got me thinking, like, is hunger for the Lord, like, is that really what's required? Do we need to work up a hunger for Him? And by spending more time with Him, does that create more of a hunger? Is hunger the correct word? English is so bad at this. And again, speaking of that, like, the danger is that it just creates a space where now you need to perform to get something, and there will always be someone who's hungrier than you, and then you put condemnation and guilt and shame on yourself for not being like that, or you need to be like that, and it gets again slip into works. And anyway, it got me thinking like, hey, when I've had the meal, I'm not hungry anymore. And I feel like, was Jesus not the meal? Like, did Jesus not come? And I'm sorry to even like put it in those terms. It can seem a little bit out there or like a little bit demeaning, but I'm just, for the sake, like, do we not come to the Lord's table and He is the meal? He lavished it all upon us, everything we could want. He gave everything we could need. He gave all there, one shot, and we now get to live in that forevermore. So it's almost like, again, coming to the table hungry, eating and going away, and then getting hungry, versus like, hey, I live at this table and I get to enjoy, And anyway, how does that lead to rest? Well, then it got me thinking, like, when don't you rest? And I mean, there's many times, but it's very hard to rest or sleep when you're hungry. And I know this personally, maybe you, maybe even if you've fasted, or like, and also like where we're from, there's often a lot of guys who are unfortunate and they're on the street and stuff. And I've spoken to a few, and especially the one guy, like, he used to drink a lot, and it's like if you give him money or something, he will probably buy alcohol. And I was speaking to him once, and it was just like a side I'd never thought of before, but he was like, he was quite open about being an alcoholic as well, but he was like, do you know how difficult it is sometimes, firstly, to go ask people for money? So it's like humiliating for him, so that's why he drinks, to make it a bit easier. Also, he's like, do you know how hard it is to sleep on concrete on a cold floor when you're really, really hungry? It's like that hunger keeps you awake. And sure, he could buy food with that and then probably be better, but it just got me thinking, there's people who don't get given any money in that day, and like the food they can't really get, or they get given like a little bit, and sometimes their alcohol is a bit cheaper. Still not wise decisions, granted, but it just got me thinking, like, and I know that when you're so hungry, it's so hard to rest, because all you can think about is eating. And I was just thinking, like, a spiritual rest, like, I wonder if maybe something like that relates to it. Like, when are you at the best times I'm at rest is when everything's taken care of. Like, when I know, I'm talking about physical rest now, when I know there's no like worries, there's no like pressing issue of finance or work, or just somewhere I have to be that I don't want to, or anything. Like, the perfect day is like waking up and having nothing that you have to do, everything's taken care of. It's like you can be at ease. Often we're not at rest because there's always another thing pressing, or like calling for our attention, or that needs attention. And hunger is like one of those things for me. It can be like, it can keep you from rest, because just when you think you can rest, it's like, oh no, but I've got to do this, or I've got to eat, or I've got to, I'm so at peace now, but like, the little thoughts in our head, if I was spending maybe more time in the Word, like, I know I'm up to an hour, I must try to get up to 2 hours. Or like, I didn't pray that much today, It's like all these little things that we would align to being hungry for the Lord sometimes can maybe keep you from rest, because you're always chasing something. I don't know. These are just thoughts, unfiltered. And maybe by realizing that, hey, the work, it is all done. It's all paid for. You don't have to be hungry. In fact, I came so that you may be full forevermore. And maybe that kind of thinking can actually put us at rest, because all of these things now that you need to and have to do kind of fall away, and you realize that you're at peace with God, and God's at peace with you, and you're in Him and He's in you, and there's nothing you have to do. And maybe rest comes from the eternal knowing that forevermore you're with Him and He's with you as you are, whether you do or don't. As you are, you are with Him. And maybe there's something to that. By you're full now, you've feasted because of Jesus. He's given you it all, and therefore you no longer have to be hungry. You don't have to hunger and thirst, because you have the bread of life in you, and you're in Him, and because of that, you can be at rest. I don't know. I'm going to continue these thoughts probably as I go. Um, and I know like some of the guys I listen to do speak about like even just natural father and son. Like a father wants his son to be around them and wants to be needed, but they don't want their son to be desperate for them, crying out to them, like, not moving without them. Like, and again, you can't always relate a natural father to a heavenly father, I guess. But there is something in that, like, what if we never had to be desperate for him or hungry for him? But he actually wanted us to be like, hey, because again, hunger and desperation comes from a lack, in the sense of I don't have, so I need to eat. I haven't eaten, so now I need to. And it's like the lack of being with him causes that hunger, maybe. And maybe because we have it all, we no longer have to be hungry, but we get to enjoy him and we get to need him in situations. But it's a very different relationship to having to. Anyway, these could be terrible thoughts. Maybe not terrible. Probably, I mean, not terrible. These could just be random nonsense thoughts. But I think there could be something in there, like hunger that doesn't lead to rest, but being fully satisfied does. Once you've eaten that meal, and I mean, we have a saying in South Africa, maag is full, oog is toe, means your stomach is full, your eyes close. And quite literally, sometimes you ever hit that spot where you're eating and like you're just so satisfied that your eyes just want to close. That's rest. And I want to kind of say that we are fully satisfied because we have the feast, we have the meal. We're in it, and we never leave it. It's always there, and so you can rest. So be at rest, myself, my mind, my heart. Just as I'm just meditating here with myself, but doing it out loud. But just as I breathe in and out, I'm just meditating along that line of like, hey, it is finished. I have it all. I'm in Christ and He's in me, and I can actually rest, knowing that He is with me and that He will look after me.